Welcome back to the Manufacturing Alliance podcast, everybody. I am Tony DeMakis with Alliance Specialties and Alliance Laser Sales, where we are mold makers that don't build molds. We do all the other stuff that you, the mold maker, needs: polishing, laser welding, laser engraving, hot runner repair, preventative mold maintenance, all those things. We also have a laser engraving, laser welding line where we build and sell laser welding and laser engraving equipment made here in the United States. Sorry, I had to turn the volume down or else you would hear an echo. And I want to do that to you. Sorry, we're a little bit late. We got busy talking and having a good lunch. And so relationships over timeliness. That's the way I look at things. So who are we? Why are we here? I mean, you guys know the gist of who we are at this point. The Manufacturing Alliance is a podcast for people that want to know what's going on in the world of U.S. manufacturing. That's who we serve. That's who we want to relate to. That's the stories we want to tell. And week after week, we try to do this around 1:30. It's 2:00 now, so we're late. It's fine. It happens. And today we get to hear new stories from new people. So I'm really excited. Don and Katie, thank you guys for being here from PTP Manufacturing, right?
Yes, sir. Thanks for having us.
Yeah. I'm excited that you guys are here. You made the trip down from Wisconsin, right?
Mm-hmm.
The beautiful, glorious, exciting drive.
Yep. Got lost a couple times, but we made it.
You said the scenic route.
Yes, the scenic route, definitely. We took a couple shortcuts.
Got confused around Lake Geneva, that's all.
It happens. I mean, my dad, when I first started working at Alliance, I was a driver, and there was no Google Maps. There was no, there was none of that.
MapQuest printout.
Yeah, but my dad didn't trust MapQuest and printouts. He would draw me his own maps on notebook paper.
Nice.
And that was my way of getting around downtown Chicago and everywhere that we wanted to go. And he wouldn't give me streets. He would give me landmarks and things to look out for. And I may have got lost a couple times and called him and like, Dad, I don't know where I'm going. And he's like, where are you? I'm like, I see Comiskey Park. He's like, get out of there.
Right. I understand that.
Don't stop at lights. Don't stop at stop signs. Get out of there as fast as you can. So, that was my driving experience. It was fun. It was something. So Don, tell us, you started PTP, I'm assuming.
Yes, sir.
Why did you start it, and how long ago did you start the company?
So I learned my trade at Generac.
Okay.
I don't know if everybody's familiar with Generac. They make the generators. They used to just make a little portable. Now they make the big standbys and everything. Yep. Learned my trade there. Went to another company that made water softeners. The company was sold, and I just didn't like the direction it was going. Crazily, I rented a 2,500 square foot suite, bought a machine, and just started looking for work.
Yeah.
Landed some work and realized we can't run all this work on one machine. We're going to do with the rest of the work. So I bought another machine. So I had two big machine payments and a rent payment, and we were just trying to figure it out.
So when you were trying to figure it out, it's you and who?
My wife.
Okay.
To a certain degree.
Yeah.
But really it was kind of, me. I mean, she was along for the ride. So
yeah. The encouragement.
Yes, absolutely. But we did the max the credit cards, we did the home equities, we did all that to make things happen. And looking back 25 years ago, we're like, that was crazy.
Yeah.
That was crazy.
So you guys took that plunge 25 years ago, just went all in and said, let's just do it.
Yes. And my wife had the faith in me to go along for the ride.
And she was a stay-at-home mom too. So it's not like she was bringing in, right? She stayed at home at that point. Yeah. So it's not like she was bringing in a side income. Like it was 100% on him.
Yeah.
Yeah. And and the realities of health insurance and, when you're self-employed, it's just, all in machine payments, that were 3 times as much as our home mortgage payment at the time. And
now when you decided to jump into it like that, were you aware of what that was going to look like? Or were you a little bit naive to it?
I was naive and just thought people were going to just start knocking on the door to, hand me work. Here, do this, do that. And, it didn't work that way.
So it was did you start with any customers built in? Like when you left that company, did they agree to give you some work, or were you starting out fresh?
They were outsourcing at the time, and I had, had conversations about doing that, and we did work with some of their, I'd call it, we were like a third tier vendor.
Yep.
So we did have a little bit of that, but it never came to fruition of anything, so it was, two machine payments. I bought a brand new truck after, we couldn't be making deliveries in a Chevy Blazer. We couldn't be making deliveries in a Blazer anymore. So we had to buy a truck. And it was just, looking back, I was like, how did I roll the dice?
Right.
And take those risks. And today looking back, I'm like, that was crazy.
And so you had kids at that time.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
And how many kids?
So Katie at the time was probably three. We have two older boys.
They would be in high school age at the
time. Who were, high school age. So they weren't really working with me in the beginning. But then once they graduated and turned 18, they were, working part-time running machines, helping out, deburring parts. My dad worked driving, doing deliveries.
So it was a full family affair.
My mom,
everybody got involved.
Looking back, my dad was really helpful. He had retired and he just wanted to be, he was proud of me and what I was doing and just wanted to help. And he had fun, making deliveries and pickups and driving around. And it was exciting. It was just, looking back, it was crazy.
Yeah. So PTP Manufacturing, obviously manufacturing, right? That's why you're here. That's what we're talking about. And I want to get more into the history, but for people that don't know, what do you guys do and what is it all about?
So we got started essentially doing plastic machining. So there's machine shops out there, obviously.
Yeah.
Huge metal, steel, aluminum. But he wanted to machine plastic and provide kind of creative solutions for injection molded parts that needed value-added secondary machining.
Yep.
So the machines that he initially bought were bought kind of with plastic in mind and high volumes.
Okay.
Because molders, they don't necessarily need 10, 15 parts, but maybe a few thousands.
Yes.
And so he bought machines with some pallet changers so he could be a little bit more efficient. And, really wanted to specialize just in plastic machining for, plastic injection molded parts.
Yeah. I mean, if you're a molder and you're only making 10 parts, you're not making any money.
Correct.
I mean, that's a bad business model.
Correct.
Yep.
Build the mold, run the parts for 10. Like that's the runoff, right? That's let's get the machine started and see what's actually coming out of this. So you decide to start this business with hope and a prayer, right? No, you got one customer that's maybe going to give you some work. How was that in the early going of getting work and finding work and getting people to trust you?
I think, and what happens in the business is you have engineers and you have purchasing people and they change jobs and they move around.
Yep.
And you keep a relationship open and they keep, back in 1998, I think we had flip phones.
Yeah.
And fax machines.
Yeah.
And that's how you did business. I don't even know if we did email as much back then.
No. In 98?
Yes.
It was starting, like that was the beginnings of.
No, everything was you talked, you called
on
the phone and you faxed. Purchase orders came over the fax
and you couldn't read them because they were, just dark messes.
I think we still have our 1998 fax machine, actually, don't we?
Yes, we do.
Yeah, it's the same. We're still using it. It still works.
You still use it?
Well, barely, but
It's
you know,
unplugged. But
Okay.
if
and,
we can plug it in,
you
if we
ordered
need
you
to.
ordered things from thick catalogs,
Yeah.
and now you can't even get a catalog if
Right.
you ask. They just go on the website. Go on the website.
Right.
So
as a new company, how do you find
I
your customers to go out there and get work?
Well, so we were also very fortunate. A friend of the family's knew a person who was doing some molding for CNH.
Okay.
And we were fortunate enough to get in on the prototype of this part where I had quoted off of a corner of a print. They gave me a little corner of the print and said, quote this. And so we quoted it, not knowing that this print is three wall size pages long and has 50 part numbers. And they had the trust in us.
Yeah.
To take this from prototype to, we have tooling to run it on 3 machines 24/7.
Either the trust in you or they couldn't find anybody else that wanted to take it.
He likes to. It's the trust in him.
We also the equipment we had married those parts perfectly.
Okay.
So we were fortunate there where when I started quoting, it just, we came up with a formula to quote and it just worked out.
Yeah.
So that was like the customer that was consistent and, so I'll say steady where, like I said, we were delivering parts in a Blazer and then we had to have a pickup truck.
Right.
And then we had to have a cube truck.
That's the progress, right?
And we went from, delivering or picking up 2 boxes of parts to picking up, I can remember my wife and I going and picking up like 20 boxes of parts, and we went out to celebrate. It was a big order. And it comes to the point where things evolve into, we're doing 20 boxes a day now.
Right.
Where we were, 20 boxes was like, we're going to go celebrate.
Yeah. Well, 20 boxes originally or 20 parts?
No, I would say there was 100 parts in a box. So we picked up, 2,000 pieces.
Yeah.
And, we were doing that.
We made it.
Yeah. Where here we were doing, I'll say, and, that would have been a month's worth of work to doing, 1,000 or 2,000 a day.
Yeah.
At one point.
That's awesome.
So yeah, pretty, like I said, it's just surreal how that all worked out.
Yeah. And it's an interesting thing to look at and talk to. When my father started, he said, we didn't know anything. We had a pickup truck, same thing, right? We had a pickup truck and we knew where the mold makers were. And so I would get up, I would get my truck, I would drive down the street. I would say, do you have any polishing work? I would fill up the truck. I would go back to the shop and then we would work on getting it done. And then the next day or 2 days later, we would drop that stuff off and ask for more stuff and just keep filling up the trucks. And I feel like it was more relationship driven then than it is today. Would you guys agree?
100%.
Yeah,
100%.
definitely.
We had another customer who was a very good customer, was actually helped me get started. She paid me net 10.
Okay.
So I literally would deliver parts and,
yeah,
was a wonderful, but I would deliver parts and go sit in her office and we would just chat like, once a week. We would just sit and chit chat. And I can't imagine doing that today.
Right. Why do you think that's changed?
I think our lives just seem so much busier. Like, I don't know.
I think.
Or she was gracious enough to give me the time of day, maybe.
Sure. Well, there's that too. Katie, what were you going to say?
I think back then there's more of an old school mentality of like, this was your job and you stay there and you work and you dedicate your life to your job. Nowadays, that's great. There's nothing wrong with it. And there's nothing wrong with how it is now. But nowadays, like people coming out of college, maybe a little younger, more my generation, you stay somewhere 2 years, you leave, you go somewhere else 2 years, you leave. And so you're just kind of dealing with a revolving door of purchasing people or engineers. And so it's harder to form those relationships long term because people do bounce around. I mean, in the time I've been at PTP, people bounce around a lot more. Like some companies, like we're on our third purchase existing person and like I've been there for 3 years.
Right.
So I think that has something to do with it.
I agree. It seems weird to me. You know, I talk to my dad, and he'll talk about the relationship side of things, and how a big portion of his day was going to lunches and going to dinners and bringing people breakfast and going to this outing and doing this thing over here and whatever that looks like. And a lot of times it feels like the culture has shifted away from that, where people don't want to go have lunch,
or they can't. Like
Sure.
It's more they can't.
We've ran into stuff where like we want to do something with a customer and they're like, oh, we're not allowed to accept. And so, I mean, there's part of that.
Yeah. Which on some sides I could say that's a good thing, right?
Yeah.
Sure.
Because you had people that were buying work.
Sure.
And, you know, it's frowned upon. But just in general, I think there's something missing to the relationship side and the beautifulness of working with somebody and coming up with a solution together, and finding people organically. You know, you being able to get out of the office and go talk to people in a shop and tell them what you do, who you are, and how you can help them. Where today you have really, really good gatekeepers who their whole job is keep people out of the shop.
Yep.
Yes.
Yeah. You go into companies and you can't get past the reception desk. You know, pros and cons to that as well. Yeah.
We've had situations where Michelle was out touring a customer and, you know, she tells them everything that we do. We run through everything. Well, we can help you with that. We can help you with that. And the person said, where have you been my whole life? Like, I need you guys. And Michelle's like, I've been trying to get in here for months. Your gatekeeper wouldn't let me in. And it's so difficult because, I mean, they're doing a good job, right? That's what they're supposed to do. They're supposed to be a barrier so that like you can get work done and you don't have people coming in and bothering you all the time. If only they knew exactly what it was that you needed so that you could do the things that you needed to more efficiently. That would be amazing.
Right. So I did make a point in the beginning when it was kind of just me and my dad doing deliveries that I would, you know, I'd drop off parts and then I'm like, is so-and-so in today? Can I go visit? So, you know, I'd deliver parts and I'd park the truck and I'd go in and talk with the purchasing guy or talk with the engineer, or just to keep communication going.
Yeah. And you have vested interest because you're the owner
to
do that. It's hard to teach those skills for people to be willing to take that extra step and say, hey, can I talk to so-and-so and, you know, have that relationship with them? Because that's why you might've gotten the work the first time because someone took a chance on you and trusted that you could do it. But the work coming after that is because you build the relationship with them. And I'm sure you still have customers today that you had 25 years ago.
Yes, I do.
Because of that relationship.
Yes.
We're still running that same part that we got from the corner print. Like that's still on several of our machines and we're still machining that part.
That's awesome. That's awesome. Has that part changed over the years?
No, it hasn't changed at all. Well, I shouldn't say that. No, they've done engineering changes.
Okay.
They've either, I think we started with an aluminum mold. They were making prototypes on an aluminum mold.
Yeah.
And then there was, you know, generation 1 mold, which became generation 2 mold. So no, they did process improvements just like we all do. And we changed our processes for machining them too, as, you know, we went from doing those 20 boxes a week or a month to 20 boxes a day.
Yeah.
Where we had to, you know, change our processes also.
Yeah. So you've been in machining most of your career?
Yep. Yes. I actually learned out of high school. I started in the sheet metal fabrication, running shears and brakes and punch presses. And eventually they had openings on second shift to go into the machine shop. So I kind of learned the trade at night where they would, here, you're going to run this tonight. Bye.
Yeah.
See you tomorrow. And if something went wrong, you just kind of figured it out.
So you worked your job during the day and then at night, Or did they move you to the night
No,
shift?
I moved to second shift for more opportunities.
Sure. I was going to say that's
and money, more money. I mean, there were, pay grade changes,
Of
and
course.
so on. Just second shift alone was
of course.
a pay grade. But I still remember, here's a print, here's some parts. We haven't run this in 2 years. We need 10, here, figure this out.
Yeah. Good luck.
Yeah.
And he's still doing that today. Here's a print, figure it out.
Which is, and I don't know if I'm jumping ahead, but I do find, quoting per se, I don't enjoy quoting, but I enjoy, here's a print, we need this, I have this idea. And, once you're awarded a job that you quoted, taking that concept from in your head or on paper to a fixture or a tool to actually getting it on the machine and running a part that actually everything works out.
Yeah. I think that's one of the coolest things about what we do in this space is going from concept to completion.
Absolutely.
So many people take for granted the things that they have, that they just always existed.
Sure.
Right? Like, how did you get that? Amazon. I went to Target. But very few people recognize what actually goes into building these parts and having whatever it is that you need, whether it's medical equipment, whether it's things that go inside of planes and aerospace, and or even the chairs we're sitting on, the furniture at home. There's so many people, not because they're naive, but most people don't have to ever think about that.
Right.
How it's made, why it's made, who's doing it, what does that actually look like? How is it being made? Is it green? Is it sustainable? Is it all these things that people care about? They don't necessarily know what goes into creating those products and the importance of those products. Which is, it's mind-blowing, really.
Sure.
And then when you show somebody what that actually looks like and how things are being made, it's like their eyes are open for the first time. It's like the Matrix, right? Like they see, holy cow, that mold, you need all that steel to build a garbage can.
Right.
That's crazy. Or, we were just walking through and you saw the molds with the caps and closures and all those things. Like, at one point I taught a class in our youth group. The topic was, how you see God in your work. And so we looked at like a mold that makes caps and closures, and all of the people and processes and knowledge that has to go into creating the mold that then makes this bottle cap that you throw away. It's a throwaway piece that has, millions of dollars of equipment and technology and knowledge and know-how that goes into it to throw this thing away. And we take it for granted when our eye is more complex than a bottle cap.
Right.
And we think that somehow it came from nothing. And so the idea of manufacturing things and things being created is so fascinating to me. And I think it proves so much in a good way. Were you always interested in building and creating and doing things like that?
That's interesting you bring that up. I was when I was a kid, my parents built a house in a subdivision, and they were one of the first houses in the subdivision. So as I was a little boy, houses were getting built and the workers would leave, and I would go pick up scrap lumber and find nails on the ground and take them out in the farmer's field and build forts. I mean, it was just what I did.
Yeah. That's missing today. Kids don't have the ability to do that.
Right.
First of all, they'd probably have the cops called on them for stealing the lumber. But
we're talking, like they'd have scrap piles. I didn't think of it as stealing.
Of course not.
I felt that like, I'm taking scraps.
It's abandoned property.
You're helping
That's
them
the
clean.
legal definition.
We're cleaning. That's
Abandoned property.
But we would go out, we lived in a rural community, and there were trees out in the fields, and we would just build tree forts. And I was the one building the fort. I was
Right.
the one leading the neighborhood guys to
Go out and do it.
yeah.
That's awesome. So Katie, did you work there now?
Correct.
And what is your role over at PTP?
So I'm essentially in charge of marketing and sales,
Okay.
but I really do a little bit of everything. I mean,
Yeah.
last week we had parts that needed deburring ASAP. I took them home. I sat there at night and I deburred them. I work with, our website. I do some customer service. I try to do some marketing.
Yeah.
Sometimes I run a machine. Sometimes I pay bills. So I wear a lot of hats.
A lot of hats.
I do.
And you have other siblings in the business still?
I do not.
Okay.
Not anymore. My brothers did work for my dad for quite a few years at one point, but they don't anymore.
Yeah.
My mom still works part-time, and some of my nephews have worked there, and my niece as well. So
Nice.
like almost the whole family has worked there at some point, and tons of family friends.
We do have a widget that we machine that needs a lot of deburring.
Okay.
And we do tens of thousands of them. And we have them in flats of 500. So everybody here's 500, take them home. 500, take them home.
Yep.
I give them
while you're watching TV.
Yeah.
I don't even care how you do it, when you do it.
As long as it's done well.
You get 25 cents a piece, and here's 500.
Nice.
And they get, she had some, and
yeah,
my granddaughter had some, and so they kind of get divvied around.
Great.
It works for me. Him and his wife do them at home. So
I think that's the joy of a smaller family-run business, is that you can do those things and everybody wants to chip in and help out and be part of what that is, right? They can feel the energy and the excitement of what it means to be part of that company. There's a legacy to it.
Absolutely.
It's not just working for, if you worked at, Target and they were like, hey, take this work home with you and bring it in tomorrow. You're like, no,
thank you.
I'm not doing that.
Exactly.
So did you see this as your future?
Never. I went to college for criminal justice.
Okay.
Out of college, I worked for a nonprofit in the Milwaukee County Jail for a year. And I sat and talked to inmates all day long. I'm doing interviews to help with a bail recommendation. So people would get booked in, and then I'd sit with them in the booking room and talk to them, which was really a cool first job out of college. And then about a year later, I got hired by the FBI, and I worked out of the Milwaukee field office for 3.5 years. And I was kind of like an investigative support role, essentially.
Okay.
So I did a lot of behind the scenes work. So I would, a lot of admin work, a lot of jail, like listening to jail calls, doing spreadsheets. I did get to do some really, really cool stuff. And I can't really say too much about what I did, but I really wanted to be sworn law enforcement.
Okay.
And I was going through the agent process, but they require you to move and you can't pick where you go. And my husband is also in law enforcement where we live. And just thinking about our life and what we wanted, we were like, okay, we don't see ourselves moving out of southeastern Wisconsin.
Yeah.
And one day we want kids, and I just don't think like that lifestyle as a mom, just personally, that's not what I wanted. I didn't want to be gone 60 hours a week and have kids at home. So I got hired with a local sheriff's office, and I was a deputy for a little while.
Okay.
And then I got pregnant, and I was thinking about how I wanted my future to look with kids. And I'm like, okay, dad's always at work because my husband works all the time. And then mom's always at work. So I'm like, who's gonna be home? Like mom and dad are both gonna work Christmas. Am I just gonna drop the kids off at like my parents' house and say like, Merry Christmas, mommy and daddy both have to go to work?
You can't do that. Dad's working.
Well,
probably not on Christmas.
Thankfully not. But, and so I was like, I don't foresee myself, and there's just a lot of complexities with kids. My husband worked second shift. I was all over the place with my shift. I'm like, we're going to have like a night nanny in our house. Like that's expensive. And I'm like, I don't think I'm interested in like continuing to do this once I'm a parent. And so, we were pretty busy, and we had kind of talked, and I'm like, what if I came on in like a marketing sales role? You've never had anyone for that. I can run a machine. I can, work with customers, whatever you need. I can do it. And he was like, that sounds, let's try it out. And, it's been great.
Were you optimistic originally? Or did you think, this is my daughter, I got to help her out, we'll see what happens?
I just feel it was, sometimes your gut just tells you something's right.
Yeah.
And I've learned to kind of go with my gut more and more.
Yeah.
I just felt like it was a good fit.
Mm-hmm. That the time was right.
Yes, the time was right. It was just like everything worked out well.
It did.
Yeah.
It fit for everybody.
Mm-hmm.
It was a win-win for everybody all around.
Were you hoping in the past that she would come on board at some point? Was that a thought in your mind at all?
That really never was. She was FBI,
Yeah.
sheriff department.
Did that freak you out?
The FBI I thought was kind of cool.
Yeah.
I know. It tells everyone, my daughter worked for the FBI. I'm like, shh, you can't be telling
the
people
sheriff's
this.
department was a little bit, really, you're going to be, there's somebody with you, right?
Yeah. You're
not out there alone patrolling. You're with somebody, right?
Right.
So that was different.
Yeah.
Our Katie's, patrolling the county.
Arresting people in the dead of night, it was definitely more dangerous than being in like the locked, guarded FBI building.
Sure.
Like there's no danger. Like the biggest danger is like I could burn myself on coffee or fall downstairs. But there was like real threats, when you're a deputy on the road.
Yeah.
So
how was that? Did you enjoy it?
I did enjoy it, but it's work-life balance is not very, there's not a lot good work-life balance, and it gets old.
Sure.
So, and I didn't do it for very long, so it wasn't meant to be. That's what I keep telling myself, because there's always the what if, like, oh, what if I would have just, stuck it out and stayed longer and just had kids and kept doing this. And I don't know. I have no regrets. So
good. That says you're doing things the way that you're supposed to do them, right? I mean,
mm-hmm.
when you don't have the regrets for what could have been, what would have been, or
mm-hmm.
any of those sorts of things. I feel like that would be a scary thing to do. I don't want to do that.
Right?
I don't want anybody to try and kill me ever.
You'd probably be great at it, because like the biggest skill in being like a street cop is talking to people.
Okay.
Because if you're someone who doesn't know how to talk to people, like you're a hammer and everyone's a nail. But you can diffuse situations. You can, just like develop a relationship with the people you're talking to, and they're like, oh, you're like a human like me. And like, yeah, I'm like a human like you.
Yeah.
So relax.
Were you in law enforcement when it kind of shifted? So like, I remember as a kid, like you respected police, you respected the officers, and like, you would never talk back to a cop, right? Like never, because you'll pay for it.
Mm-hmm.
It's just the reality. And then it feels like a lot of things, somewhere along the lines, things shifted, and people didn't care what they said to people in authority or whatever. It was kind of like, you can't do anything about it.
Mm-hmm.
Did you experience both sides of that?
No, I came on after the after side of that.
Yeah.
But I'll be honest, like the county I worked in was really, really law enforcement friendly.
Okay.
And so like, sure, you still have your drunks or your belligerents.
Sure.
But you expect that from them. You know what I mean?
Yep.
Like, so most of the people were really kind. And like, there were times you couldn't walk into a restaurant or a gas station without someone offering to pay, which was all kind, but we weren't supposed to accept. So
sure.
But yeah, it was, mostly positive interactions with the community, I would say.
That's awesome.
Yeah. But that was due to where I worked.
Yeah.
So, if you worked in like maybe more a bigger city, yeah, I'm sure you get much more of that. So.
Yeah. I remember seeing a video. We digress. I don't care. I saw a video of these kids. They had like donuts on strings and they were like taunting cops with them. And like, I mean, funny and all, right?
Yeah,
But
yeah,
like,
no, I know.
nobody's going to blame these cops when they beat you. Like,
Well, someone will.
but
Someone
they
will
shouldn't,
blame
right?
them.
Because
Yeah.
at some point you should recognize like this is not okay behavior.
Correct.
Like that's not the way that you treat people, no matter who you are, right? And I think sometimes you think that a little bit of that needs to come back. Like people need to have accountability
Absolutely.
for their actions.
Absolutely.
Accountability and a little bit of fear. Like
Yeah.
you should maybe be afraid of people a little bit who are in authority instead
Yeah.
of just thinking we're all on the same playing field. We're all bros.
Right.
So,
And if it's playful joking, that's one thing. But
Mhm.
when it's blatant disrespect because you don't think that their position or their authority means anything, and you have to listen to it, you're wrong. I mean, but the time has shifted so much now that I could see people not wanting to go into that field at all.
Mhm. Yeah, I think recruitment's really been down. I think like back in the 80s, there would be a spot at a PD and you'd have hundreds of people trying to get it. And now when I was applying places, there'd be a spot open and there'd be 16 people, 20 people. It's department specific. There are like departments people really want to work for and smaller departments people are not as excited about, I would say. But yeah, people don't want to be cops like they used to.
Sure. Well, they're not trusted, right? Like between TV shows and news and everything else, like nobody trusts the police. The police used to be your friend. That's the way people saw that, right? Like you call the police when you're in trouble. Now people are like calling the police from the police, and you don't know what's real and what's not, and who to believe and what that looks like. So I'm glad that you're not doing it anymore. That's just me.
Thank you. My mother is as well.
Yeah, I'm sure. Did Stephen Avery do it?
I think he did. So I interned with. You've seen Making a Murderer?
Yeah.
So DCI, do you know what that is?
No.
So like the state has their own investigators. And
Okay.
So when there's something big in the state, it's called DCI, like Division of Criminal Investigations. It's
Yeah.
for the Wisconsin DOJ. I did an internship with them.
Okay.
Over the summer. Best summer of my life. They do some cool stuff. So.
Nice.
But I do think Stephen Avery did it. I didn't have anything to do with that case, but I do think he did it.
We talk about anything we want to. It's fun. When we watch the first series,
it's compelling.
It really is. And you think, okay, maybe he didn't.
Yeah, right?
And then you watch the second one.
I never watched it.
The second one wasn't as good. And then Candace Owens went and did her own take on it.
Okay.
And it was like, oh man, these filmmakers just made a movie.
Yeah, I know. Like they had like 5-hour interviews of like Brendan.
Yeah.
And they take like a clip of him saying this, and then a clip from 4 hours later of him saying this, and they put it together, and you're like, oh my goodness.
Yeah.
But it's like totally out of context, totally like cut up. So
to tell a story.
Exactly.
To tell a story that they want people to know, which is it's really scary that you can do that and people believe it. And then the uproar comes, right? We were talking about at lunch about all kinds of things that fall into that same category. And it's hard to know what you're supposed to believe and what that actually is and what that looks like. And I think that's a perfect example of it. So you get out of law enforcement and you decide that you're coming back. You're coming to PTP. You're going to work there. How has the transition been for you?
I mean, it's been great. We agreed in the beginning I would do part of my work office, part of my work running a machine, just because I'm just starting out, and that was really good. Like you were saying, I never thought about how things were made ever, never in my life, And then all of a sudden, I am sitting at a lathe and I'm putting, a part, either a molded part in or a piece of bar stock that was cut, and all of a sudden it comes out as like this cool thing.
Yeah.
And I was like, wow, like everything that we have has been made. Like the other day I was sitting in the dentist. I was getting an exam, sitting in the chair and like the x-ray machine's in front of me. And I'm like, oh, that's a plastic molded part. And I'm like looking at it. I'm like, oh, that was molded in Mexico. And the guy comes in and I'm like, oh, never mind. Sorry.
You're up looking at the light.
I kind of was. Yeah. Like, cause the x-ray was in front of me. I thought that was interesting. So
I think it's a really big eye-opening experience when people realize that. And then even more so when people realize that there are a lot of things still being made here in the United States. I mean, not as many as there were, but still a lot, and more that could be if we had the right workforce.
Yep.
So Don, over the time, how have you seen the industry change? I mean, 25 years is a good sample size of time. And what have you seen? What stood out to you?
Oh, you kind of caught me there. I'm just thinking of how we've evolved as a company. I guess we talked earlier about the relationships that were there with the flip phones and the fax machines and the human side of it that is gone. You can't get into a plant anymore without going to the lobby and calling.
Yeah.
You can't just walk into the receptionist. From a sales side, that is probably the most difficult. You can't cold call anywhere anymore. I know a lot of people don't. Even we have a no soliciting on our door.
But you can walk right in. We don't have a reception. No, people come in all the time.
But now you can't do that. We have a friend who makes labels, and he has a salesman that goes into the stores, and he'll just go to like the deli department and look at the labels and go to Oscar Mayer or whatever and say, hey, can I quote your labels? He's kind of got a whole store of opportunities.
Sure.
But I think the offshoring has been just devastating to the manufacturing in general. I mean, you just drive through industrial parks and you see empty buildings.
I go on LinkedIn and I see, auction closing, machines for sale. This plant nearby is closing. This plant nearby is closing. I'm like, it's hard out there.
So I believe, that's probably the biggest, is that the pie that the piece of the pie we're all competing for is smaller. And I don't know that everybody's really looking for that quality anymore. Like everybody is possibly more dollar driven than anything.
Yes.
And obviously we try to provide a quality part at the cheapest price with the best service.
Yeah.
That's what you strive for. But everybody's like, well, Mexico's this or China's this. We can't compete with China.
Can't.
I know, years ago we'd quote something like, well, we can buy the material for, pennies.
Yeah.
Compared to what we're quoting something done completed. It's, it's a joke, so to speak.
Yeah. I've heard a lot of people say that, where they're trying to compete against Chinese prices. Like, we can't buy the steel for what they're giving you a finished mold for.
We did just quote a project that is literally coming back to the U.S. from China.
Okay.
So we're kind of encouraged about it. I mean, the company has literally said, this is coming back.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And here's an opportunity. So it's like the most encouraging thing that we've seen in a while.
Yeah. We were just at the AMBA conference last week, and the American Mold Builders Association. And so, just walking around talking to people like, I now do, asking them, are you busy? Are you quoting? What's happening? And everybody to a man said, we have a stack of quoting on our desk. Quoting is picked up. Now, the orders haven't necessarily come in yet, or the purchase orders, but the quoting is coming, which is a good first step.
Absolutely.
Right.
Yep.
We've had customers reach out to us and say, we used to get this made in in China or overseas in the past, but with the tariffs and everything, we're looking for some U.S. manufacturers. Can you help us? And we love those phone calls. We are always happy to be a Rolodex. For those young people that don't know what a Rolodex is, it's a little round thing that you put your business cards in. We are always happy to be a resource to bring people together, whoever we know in the industry versus whoever is needing something, and then see if that fits, right? And so we were able to point some customers onto other customers and say, like, this would be a good fit for you. This is why this would be a good partner. And I think that's that old way of doing things, where it's relationship driven all the way around.
Mm-hmm.
I think when you look at people trying to find business now, it's much harder. We used to work with a company in Turkey that made laser welding and laser cutting systems, and they would call us and be like, "What's going on?" And we're like, "I can't get into these places." And the guy was like, "Tony, just go knock the door, tell them what you make. They'll let you in." I'm like, "Dude, that's not the way it works. Like, nobody lets you in because you say you have their solution. Like, that's just not a thing in the US." And he would just call and say, like, we sold the system. It's $5 million. We could do the same thing. Like, yeah, okay, cool. Like, it's not going to work. It's not going to work. And so the idea of sales has just gotten so much harder. That could be, making excuses for things or sour grapes. Cause some people could say, what do you mean it's gotten harder? It's gotten easier. You have the internet. You can find every company you ever want to talk to. You have everybody's at your disposal.
That is true. That is definitely true. There's silver lining, I guess,
Yeah. Yeah. How have you found doing the sales and marketing? Have you found it to be an easy process to get into and have progress with?
I told you this at lunch, but when I first got hired, I was like, how do I do sales?
Yeah.
Because I'm not naturally the most extroverted person, like law enforcement background. I'm like, I don't know, a little more reserved, have walls up a little bit. Once I know somebody, like, things are great, but I'm like, how do I do this? Because I don't think I can just walk in and have a receptionist let me through the door into the back and then just have a great conversation and just like get work. So I was telling you, I watched Kyle Mylan's videos. I just like watched them for hours. And it really helped. There's a learning curve. It's a process, and it's sales. Like, you throw your line out and you hope something comes back. And we have seen some good results.
She's got at least, I don't know how many new accounts that she's brought in.
Yeah, which is great. But I've had more luck than I expected.
Sure.
So
Absolutely.
Yeah.
What have you found that's working the best?
You want my secrets?
I mean,
you want my trade secrets?
I mean, yeah.
I think,
see what you're doing.
Well, knowing a contact inside a company.
Yeah.
Even if you don't know them, but going in and dropping something off for them and then hitting them up on LinkedIn or sending them an email and saying, hey, I dropped this off for you. I'd love to talk further to see, if you have any machining needs, plastic machining needs specifically. People respond really well to that. Like that kind of specialized, that's kind of been my best luck. And then, I try to be like, I've tried to be pretty relational. Like I'll stop by some of our customers, just drop off bagels or shoot them an email, wish them a Merry Christmas, just little stuff like that. It's nothing groundbreaking, but
it's the effort. It's the effort to have a relationship.
And then, just checking in. Hey, do you need anything? How does our last quote look? What can we do to make it look better for you? How can we, what do you need?
Yeah.
Let me know what you need and we can figure out. Once I know what you need, we can figure out, something.
Then you can say yes.
Exactly.
We were joking around at lunch and, Haley and I talked about it last week. The power in saying yes to people, like hearing what they need and then saying yes. We don't know how yet. We'll figure it out, but somebody's going to do it. It might as well be us. So yes, let's keep the conversation going. Let's talk about this further. one of the things that we do is share secrets here, right? That's fun. I think personal attention is amazing. And so, whenever we go to a trade show or conference or whatever, our sales staff sends handwritten cards out to all the people. And we used to have a sales guy here who I said, okay, I need you to write these cards with all the people you met. And he was like, I'm really busy. Can't the girls do this? Can't the girls in the office do this? And I was like, you want the girls in the office to get your commission? I mean, the girls in the office aren't the ones that met him. The reason that you're sending this is because you care that you met them and you are glad that you met them and you want to have a relationship with them, not Vanessa or Jessica. They're happy to do it, but this is your relationship that you're going to build with them so that the next time they see you, they're happy to see you. And they're like, you really think anybody cares about this? I was like, I do.
Yeah,
I really do.
Definitely.
And so we went to, fast forward, we go to a shop. They had sent the card and we make calendars every year. They sent a calendar, sent a card. And I can't remember if we had sent a picture at that time, because sometimes we'll take a picture of our sales team at the trade show and send that too, so they remember who we are.
Mm-hmm.
And we went to go to the demo with the machine, and this guy had the card magneted up to his toolbox, and the calendar was up next to him. And the response was like, nobody's ever sent me a card before, especially like another guy sending a guy a card. Like, that's not normal. But it was that small thing that stood out just a little bit to say like, hey, we care. Like,
Mm-hmm.
And those things are all important when you're trying to differentiate yourself from somebody else. One of the other things that we started doing, so every week we run a report of the jobs that we finished in all the departments. And then we send that report to our sales team. And then our sales team can take that report and call those customers and just say, hey, I know that we finished a job for you. How did the job turn out? Is everything okay? Is there anything you need from us? Not begging for more work, but just a touch point.
Mm-hmm.
How is it going? What's happening with you? Did it turn out okay? Did we miss anything? Were you happy with it? So that they don't have to sit and wonder and wait. And, the worst thing ever owning a business is like, you had all these customers, or you have all these customers, and you're not getting work and you don't know why.
Mm-hmm.
Did we mess up? Did you shift to a different vendor for some reason? What is the thing? What are we missing? And then just being able to ask that question. Hopefully you get an honest answer. But I always think about it like when you go to a restaurant and you're sitting there eating and secretly you're like, this food is terrible. The wait staff is terrible. We're never coming back here again. And the waiter or waitress comes up and goes, how is everything? You're like, it's great. Thanks. Bye.
Thank
like, cause you just don't want to talk to them.
Mm-hmm.
How much better could the food be everywhere if we were just honest with what our reaction was to things?
Boy.
All right, next time we should try it.
Well, I hope the food was good at lunch today.
No, it was really great.
You're not just saying that, are you?
No,
I mean, I don't work there. So.
I don't think I see. That's not me. I wouldn't. I'd be like, it could have been better, but
sure.
Thank you.
Sure.
But you never say it to them. You all, like you said,
Yeah,
everything
exactly.
was great. Everything was great.
Well, it's not the server who would have made the bad food too. You don't want to make them feel bad.
Right. We went to a restaurant a few months ago. It's one of our favorite restaurants. And my daughter ordered a steak, and she had ordered a filet, and the filet came out, and she's like, I don't really like it. I was like, what do you mean you don't like it? It's a filet. And I tried it, and it tasted a little bit like liver.
Ooh.
And I could not understand why. And I had lamb chops. And so I was like, Grace, you want to try this? And she was like, yeah. No, that's yours. That's what you wanted. I was like, just try it. I said, I'll eat your steak. It's fine. So she ate the lamb chops. I ate the steak, and I didn't say anything. And I text the owner later, and I was like, hey, just so you know, this was our experience, yada, yada. And she's like, did you say something to the team? And I was like, no, I just wanted to let you know. She's like, Tony, you should have said something. We would have made you a new meal. It's important for them to know. We could have looked at what batch did this come out of? Like all these things. And I was like, you're right. I'm sorry. I blew it. I thought I was being helpful.
Right.
But I wasn't being helpful. It's so frustrating. You think you're doing the right thing, not making a fuss, but it was fine. So as you guys, I'm jumping. So as you guys are in business together, are there challenges with that?
Between the two of us?
Yeah.
I don't think so at all.
No.
I mean,
We've gotten heated a couple times.
Okay.
in my opinion, everybody has to put up with me and my idiosyncrasies. I mean, we all have idiosyncrasies.
Sure.
I don't know. I'm just, after doing things so long, you only know your way, and this is how we do it. And for her to be able to take on some of those responsibilities, make her own, make it her way, make me understand her way.
Is that hard for you?
I've mellowed.
Considerably.
I've mellowed considerably. I think I used to be a little more of a hard guy when it came to my way or the highway.
Yeah.
And now I'm more, that's good. That would be a really good idea.
Yeah.
Let's do that now.
What was that shift for you?
I think because I'm an entrepreneur.
Yeah.
I'm a control freak. I'm also,
that giggle makes me think you agree.
half of what I do is I'm a problem solver.
Yeah.
That's like almost my whole job. In fact, her son, he's 3. He'll come over to our house and, Papa Don can fix it.
Mhm.
Papa Don can fix it.
Yeah. Like he had a book that there's a button and it plays the most annoying songs.
You broke it on purpose.
I wish. Well, we lost it and he found it and it was broke. And he's like, maybe Mimi, that's my mom. Maybe Mimi can fix it. And I was like, no, I don't think so. And he's like, Papa Don can fix it. And I'm like, well, Papa Don's going to be at work right now, but we're going to Mimi's house, but Papa Don's at work. And he said, before we go to Mimi's house, let's go to PTP so Papa Don can fix my book. And I said, well, I'm dropping off at Mimi's house and I'm going to PTP. So I'll take your book to PTP and Papa Don can fix it. And so I give him this book, this super annoying little book.
Yeah.
That he got as a gift.
Yeah.
And I'm like, he wants you to fix it. Like you don't have to. You can lose it for a few days. Like we don't need this. We have lots of other things. And it just needed a new battery in it. But I just was like, I'm done with this book.
Yeah.
So I give it to him. He goes to 2 different stores. He finds the correct battery and then he hand delivers it.
Hero.
To my son
Super
at my
hero.
house that night. And my 3-year-old, his mind was just blown. He was like, oh, he fixed it. And then he hand delivered it. So
Yeah. Hero.
Back to your original question. I believe there comes a certain point where being a control freak, you can't control everything. And you have to delegate some of that to other people. I just can't, I couldn't do it anymore. It's here, Katie, this is yours now.
Yeah.
Here, so-and-so, this is yours now.
Mm-hmm.
So that's probably where when I say I've mellowed, that's probably sharing responsibility with everyone.
It's a hard thing to do.
I'm really bad control freak. I mean,
Yeah.
I think that's why I'm good at what I do.
Yeah.
He's really like you give him something, he's going to do it right.
Yeah.
And so he makes great parts. Like you're not going to get bad parts. And if something is off, it's going to get fixed.
Yeah.
Like as soon as the book got fixed and delivered to my house. I mean, that's just how he is. But yeah, I think you just can't, with everything you have to do, you can't hold the reins tight with every single thing.
And that's fair. But it is a hard thing to do, to relinquish the reins to certain things.
Mistakes have dollar signs attached to them.
They do.
So that's always there.
Yeah.
To some degree, mistakes have dollar signs.
Yeah. That's absolutely true. My dad used to he used to always laugh at us and say, you need to, when we had when Kelly and I had our graphic design and marketing company, it was just the 2 of us. And he would always laugh at us and say, you guys need employees. You can't do this by yourselves. You need employees. They're like, we can't afford employees. Like, you can't afford not to have employees. You need employees, jackass. And his point was like, you can't do all the stuff. You can't go out and try and find work and get the work done.
Mm-hmm.
It's impossible to do that yourself. You can never go on vacation or take a day off if you don't have employees.
Right.
If you don't have a team around you that you can trust and work with, you are a slave to that machine forever.
Yep.
But it doesn't mean it's easy to let go of that stuff, especially if you have a little bit of that control to you. When it comes to like the marketing and the branding of our company, that's my baby. Like I can't run machines. I can't do any of that stuff. That's not my skill set. I fully admit it. I don't know it. I don't understand it. Can't do it. But the brand is like, I got to tell the story of the brand. And so when we started looking at hiring a marketing person to help out, it was really hard to let go of some of that stuff. And, somebody would use a font that you didn't like, and you're like,
oh boy.
And, Kelly, my wife, being a designer also, she would come home and she would be like, did you see what so-and-so did? Like, no. And I'm like expecting the worst. Like, I'm going to go and see all these typos or like something. And I look it up and I'm like, what? She's like, you let her use that font? I'm like, well, it's not, the world's not going to collapse. It's going to be okay. Is it what I would have chosen? No, but you got to let people have some, like you said, autonomy to figure some stuff out and make it their own, and recognize that it may not be exactly the way that you want it to be or the way that you would have done it, but it doesn't mean it's wrong. And it doesn't mean it's not going to work out better than what you thought.
Mm-hmm.
But it's hard. It's hard to let go of that.
So I don't know if it's, age mellows you a little bit too.
Yeah.
My theory is that there's been other members of my family that they've more so than us. I think maybe we're real similar personality wise, but in a good way, to where I kind of get where he's coming from most of the time. He kind of gets where I'm coming from.
Yeah.
And so I think that actually helps versus if I were, wouldn't you agree? You and I are a little more similar than like other members of our family.
Gotcha.
No.
Noted.
And I think that actually helps, because I think if we were wildly different, you would be like, what are you doing? Whereas I think you can kind of see where I'm coming from, and I can see where you're coming from with most things. Occasionally we have to have like a hard conversation about something that we're not seeing eye to eye on, but
and you're always going to have those.
Yeah.
I mean, that's a reality of working together and having that situation. When I came back to the company, or came into the company, my father and I agreed that if it hurt our relationship in any way, that I would quit. That it wasn't worth that. And for the most part, it's been great. It's been great. A huge blessing to be able to work with my parents, work with my family and do this thing and take what my dad created, and hopefully take what he made and build it into something that's bigger and better and does more. Better is a hard word to use, but that can grow and do more than what he had envisioned. Mm-hmm. That's the goal. And he's still supportive. He still gives me his opinion, which I love and hate at the same time.
Where are you in the birth order?
I'm first.
Brothers? You're firstborn? Okay.
Yeah.
He is too.
So am I.
Yeah. I was going to be my guess, first or last, if I had to guess for you, but.
No, I'm the guinea pig child.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Got the hard knocks of everything.
Yeah. Yeah. Whatever didn't work.
Earliest curfew.
Yeah.
That became the latest curfew to the youngest. We were the guinea pig. You're absolutely right. We were the guinea pig. We had the learning curve.
And I did the same thing to my son. If he was here, he would tell you that I was not a good dad in the beginning, but he would also tell you that I got better over time. But you only have what you know. when it comes to parenting or business or whatever, right?
Yes.
You only have what you've learned up until that point to be able to make decisions on how you're going to do the things that you're going to do, whether it's parenting your kids or running a company, managing a department, making parts, whatever it is. Nobody says this is the way to do all the stuff and make
Sure.
it great every time. You have to learn throughout, and it's a challenge, and it's every part of that is a challenge to do. So future outlooks, what's the future of the company?
We don't there's no big plan.
No, nothing yet.
Yeah.
Nothing yet. I'm still enjoying what I do. I still consider myself young.
Okay.
We're able to, do the things we want to do.
Yeah.
I have great employees. Don't have plans yet.
It's great.
We just bought a brand new piece of equipment last year, biggest piece of equipment we ever bought. So,
What'd you buy?
we bought a large vertical Mazak machining center.
Okay.
It has a lot of vertical machining centers have like 20 inches of Z travel.
Yep.
We have 30. So
Okay.
it's a pretty big machine. I'm a Mazak guy. I don't know if anybody put a plug into Mazak.
Yeah.
So no plans on going anywhere.
Good for you. And you're sticking around for a while because you're happy.
I plan on it. Yeah. We'll see. Maybe a more active role in the future, but like he said, no plans. So
it's good. It's good to be flexible and just, have that ability to just kind of ride it out and see where that's going to take you.
Mm-hmm.
I have a fellow who's worked with me since the beginning.
Okay.
25 years.
Wow.
He's missed 2 days of work.
Ever.
Those 2 days were consecutive.
That's amazing.
He's
you're doing something right.
He's taking vacations. He's taking all his vacations, but sick.
But not knowing, like inexcused or call-in days. 2 days.
Yeah.
That's amazing. You don't hear that very often.
Right. So I'm very fortunate.
He probably won't listen to this, but shout out to Steve.
He's too busy working.
He can listen to podcasts while he works.
Yeah. That's great. That's great. So when you said business is improving, that it was a little bit of a rough year last year. Everybody kind of experienced that same kind of thing. Who's a good customer for you guys? What's the kind of work that you guys are looking for so that you can serve them in the way that's best for you and for them?
Do you want me to take this? You want to take this?
Take it away, Katie.
All right. I think
nice job delegating and turning that over. That's awesome.
I guess our ideal customer is injection molder, lots and lots of parts that need lots and lots of secondary machining operations. I mean, that's what he essentially got in business to do. We have mills with high capacity where they can run nonstop. And sorry, of course, now I'm blanking.
Our niche is a higher volume.
Okay. Secondary operations for molded parts. And my goodness.
Our niche really isn't to the 10 to 20. We're the 100, 500,000.
Yeah.
Not even 100.
And the one I was missing, which is the most obvious, is plastic. Like we're not really your typical metal machine shop. We like to work in plastic. Our machines are clean. They're virtually coolant free. There's a couple times we've had to run coolant. And so a lot of the parts, if we're doing like medical molding that we're doing secondary operations on, like that's usually a requirement, like no coolant, no chips.
Yep.
So we're able to kind of meet those criteria super easily because that's what we're built for.
That's awesome.
We're also, several of our customers are NSF or FDA.
Okay.
So the materials have to be certified. They don't want to see metal chips in their parts.
Yep.
They don't want to see cutting, they don't want to see cutting fluids at all.
Yep.
So that's really our niche.
Well, because you don't want that in your food. I mean, it makes sense,
That
right?
is
Like,
true.
yeah, I get it. I understand why they don't want that. That would be bad in that case.
Yep. Exactly.
Any other thoughts from you guys on anything? I think we covered a lot of good stuff today.
I don't think so. Anything?
Was your first podcast terrifying and awful?
This is okay. I
Yeah, it was-
appreciate the opportunity to share. I do enjoy sharing the journey that we've been on as PTP Manufacturing, from myself to my wife to our family.
Yeah.
All the way from, my grandson painted our building a couple summers ago, to another grandson was, doing yard work.
My
it's-
niece she's kind of close in age to me. My
Sure.
brothers are a lot older. She's super pregnant right now. She's sitting at home deburring parts for us. like it is kind of it's an all hands on deck, situation when
Yeah.
it needs to be, which is
so,
great.
it's hard. It's hard when we have family gatherings. You want to talk about work? I'm like, you guys really want to talk about work? Can we talk about something else?
Yeah.
It's hard
It really is.
to separate.
Yeah.
But like I said, to share the journey that we've been on as a company, the success, the growth, it's all been a blessing.
Yeah. That's a great word for it. I mean, there was a time where at work, I was there, my brother was there, my mom was there, my dad was there, my uncle's one of my business partners. One of my brothers would do some video work for us. And so you have that feeling, and it is special. But it is difficult too when you go to a family, like a birthday party, and topics of work comes up and you want to talk about work, and you have to, or you don't see each other throughout the week because you got other things going on, and now you want to talk about it. And somebody will be like, really, you guys need to talk about work now? It's like, well, they asked you about your work. I mean, just because you don't work there, why is it different?
Right.
And when you're passionate about it, it is really hard to turn it off.
Sure.
I mean, it's not just a job. Right. It's
Correct.
your family. It's your legacy. It's all the stuff
and-
that has gotten you to where you are and given you all the things and the benefits that you have.
Absolutely.
You're going to make him cry.
You know,
we won't do that. We'll try not to do that.
I feel like everything I do is a reflection of, not everything. Everything is intertwined. Your personal life, your business life, your faith. It's all connected. You know, the reason that we're successful as a company is, you know, the blessings that have been bestowed on all of us.
Yeah.
So,
you can't separate those things.
right.
Right. If you do, you're going to live an inauthentic life, and you know those chinks in the armor are going to come out at some point. We're given one life to live on this earth, and to do it to the best of our ability with the blessings that we have, and pass that on to other people, and fulfill that purpose, and be a witness, and be hands and feet, and do all the stuff that we're supposed to do. You said it before, you're just fortunate enough to be able to lead that group of people to do those things, and then tell your story and share that, and see what that looks like, and pass that on to more people. And it's a huge opportunity and responsibility at the same time.
Yeah. And sometimes you don't realize, but yeah, sometimes you got a little bit on the shoulders.
Yeah. When you look at, you know, everybody in your facility is looking at you to make sure that they have food.
Yep.
And can buy, you know, clothes for their kids and all those other things. And it's a huge thing. It's not just making decisions for you. It's making decisions for, you know, 10 families, 60 families, whatever that looks like.
Right. Absolutely.
Thousands of families. So I mean, I can't imagine that people got to do this for thousands of families. Like, oh my gosh, how do you figure that out? But no, it's a fun journey. And, you know, for me, I think the manufacturing space is a really cool place to be. I was talking to, I'll tell you the story and then we can get out of here, because I know you guys got to drive again. There's a lawyer friend of mine. We used to play hockey together, and he was bad mouthing the current administration. It's not his favorite. And, however you feel politically, I don't care. But he was bad mouthing the administration, talking about how the tariffs are stupid and they're a joke and da, 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 da. And I sent him a message and I said, hey, dude, just so you know, like I run a family manufacturing company, and these tariffs that the president put in place are having a positive impact on our business and on our industry because it's bringing jobs and work back to the United States, something that we all need. And his response was, you are still trying to fight for this dying and extinct industry. That's not what we do anymore.
Oh, wow.
And I was just like,
what does he do for work?
He's a lawyer.
Okay, yeah, that's what you said.
Yeah.
Okay.
But I just paused and I thought, I can't take this conversation any further.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Because although he's really smart and although he's educated, he's a moron. Like, I don't know how else to say that. Like, to say that what we do as a manufacturing industry, whether that's plastic, metal, food, packaging, whatever box that falls in, to say that that's a dying and extinct industry is just an asinine concept, because it's how so many people make their living. And it's how all the products you use come into existence.
Everything, every day.
Yeah. And so we didn't go any further in our conversation. I realized that I'm not going to talk to this person anymore because I can't. I don't know how to. But I love talking to people that are in this space, because 9 times out of 10, they're just like you guys, like authentic, down to earth, real people who are proud to do the work that they do, working with their hands and serving the community and other people and taking pride in everything that they're doing and not taking it for granted. So I appreciate that. We end every show with a prayer. Do you guys have any prayer requests?
Not really. Pray for our family. We've been very blessed. We have 12 grandchildren. We've got 3 kids. Everybody's healthy, happy. Knock on wood.
Yeah. That it keeps going.
Yeah, we're very blessed. We're very blessed in that respect, and that's really important. So maybe just lift up the Gehr family.
Yeah, Gehr
/ Sobbe family.
It all falls in the same umbrella.
Yeah. No, I was a Gehr for most of my life.
Yeah.
Still am.
She's still a Gehr.
Just not legally.
Yeah.
I joke with my husband all the time. I'm like, you didn't want to take my last name? And he's like, no. I'm like, okay, you're missing out.
We're pretty awesome. Just saying.
Exactly.
It's funny to say that. Our pastor at church, he says, if you don't have any prayer requests, we'll pray for your suffering so that you do later.
Please don't.
Well, we're on the way here. She has a friend whose father's sick. I have a friend who's, has cancer.
Yeah, my good friend's dad has brain cancer. So if you would pray for him, that would be amazing.
Yeah.
Of course, when you ask that, I blank. I'm like, I don't think I have anything. But
that's the way everybody always is.
Yeah, I'm sure. Well, you should beforehand be like, all right, think of a prayer request.
Just so you know, we're going to ask this question. All right, we'll pray, and then you guys can get back on the road.
All right.
Heavenly Father, thank you for today. Thank you for these 2 amazing people. Thank you that they've come into my life and I could hear their story, and so many other people could hear their story. And so we just ask for continued blessings, and that we would recognize that whatever gift you give us is a blessing, whether it feels like it or not. That we would trust you and recognize that you are the one that's in control. It's not us. So help us to relinquish the control to you and live in such a way that your will is done and not ours. And we just ask that you would watch over us when we're sick and when we're healthy, and allow us to feel strength in you. And know that you're with us. And we love you. And it's in Jesus' name we pray. Mm-hmm. Amen. Guys, thank you so much for taking the trip and coming out here. I really appreciate getting to know both of you and what you guys have been doing and experiencing. And if there's anything I can do to help you out going forward, just don't hesitate to ask. Now we get to be friends for life.
All right.
But I promise I won't hug either of you.
Thank you. That's okay. A side hug every now and again.
is okay.
It's okay.
A side
But
hug
I'm
is
not
acceptable.
I'm not like a huggy person.
All right. I got it. All right. So that's it. That's a wrap for the show. Thank you all for watching and listening. Take care and God bless.